You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, how are you? Okay, so we have been talking about the 12 steps. And if you've not listened to the last 2 episodes, I would definitely, this is kind of a mini series. I would love for you to do that. If you don't want to, then do not and start right here in the middle. But we have talked about steps 1 through 4. And today, hopefully, I'm going to get through step 5 and 6. And okay, so why am I bringing up the 12 steps? It is, again, not an endorsement saying that Alcoholics Anonymous, which is where the 12 steps originated from, is the only or key way to get your loved one sober. I'm not saying that. I'm also not saying it's not the way to get them sober. This is not about an assessment of the success or failure of Alcoholics Anonymous. I know some people who it has worked for and who swear by that program, and I know some people who have not. It has not been successful. Now, why am I bringing up the 12 steps then, you might ask? I'm bringing it up because I think we get confused when we love someone struggling with addiction on what would it look like if they actually got sober. Like what would their behaviors be? What would their conversations be? What would our relationship look like? And we get so used to the insanity because it's definitely insane, and there's a lot of craziness, and it's like a roller coaster ride with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Loving someone that struggles with addiction, it's very unpredictable. You are walking on a minefield, never quite knowing when things are going to blow up. That can become normalized. We can become so used to the craziness that we become almost numbed out to it, like we expect it, and we lose sight of what a healthy relationship looks and sounds like. And so I'm here to kind of cut through the fog and say, hey, let's all keep our eyes on the prize. And let's choose to believe that we actually can get that in this lifetime, whether it's with the person we love now or whether it's with somebody else. And that's definitely not me telling you to leave, because you can leave, you can stay. We're not even going to talk or discuss that right now. Maybe a couple episodes from now, we can talk about that in further detail. But right now, the work begins with you. And for those of you that are new to the podcast, you're like, wait, what? He's the one with the problem, or she's the one with the problem. I'm the sober one. I'm the honest one. I'm the one that takes care of all of it. And I totally get that. And you deserve a medal of recognition for your contribution to your relationship. There is no doubt in my mind that you are the glue that keeps that together. And if you remove yourself and your efforts and you stop trying, that things will fall apart. And that is exactly why we keep trying so hard. That whole setup is exactly what keeps us feeling exhausted and empty all the time. And that is actually what your loved one is banking on. They're banking on the fact that you are the glue, that you are the hustler, that you are the one willing to put in the extra hours and go the extra mile and keep sacrificing and working your tushy off to make all of this continue to work. Addiction finds and seeks people out that have those characteristics and traits and goes, yeah, that looks really appealing to me, because I know that person is going to manage all the stuff that I don't want to, so I can go and get drunk, or I can take off and spend all our money, or affairs, or look at porn, or do drugs, or whatever the type of addiction you're struggling with is. And so if you know, and I know, that if we stopped that behavior, that things would fall apart, and that scares us to death. Because what does it look like with things falling apart, right? It looks scary. It looks probably very disgusting and dirty. I know a lot of people, myself included, used to pick up after my loved one all the time because I had young kids and I wanted a clean house. And one of the things we talk about in the Love Over Addiction program is literally just stop doing that. Like, stop that very simple behavior. Eat dinner when you want to eat dinner instead of waiting for them to come home. Don't clean their dirty dishes. Don't do the laundry. If they're not contributing an equal amount around the house to helping maintain your life, then why are you doing more work for them? Like, that's called enabling. But some women were like, wait, I hate a dirty house. It drives me nuts. I don't just want to leave their stuff all around. So then that's when you grab a garbage bag and you throw everything of theirs into that garbage bag and put that garbage bag. You can put it in their garage, in their closet, wherever. But you can just throw things in there and say, look, I'm not a mother, or maybe you are a mother. I'm not your mother. I am not here to pick up after you. My role in your life is not to be your maid, is not to mend your wounds. It's not to be subservient to everything that you need all the time in every area. That's not why I was put on this earth. That's not my role, and that's not even my gifts. You can be a loving, wonderful, contributing partner and spouse that's supportive without being an enabler to their bad behavior, because grown-ups pick up after themselves. They are responsible for their spaces and their items and their things. They contribute as much as they take. That's what a healthy marriage looks like. It looks like somebody who sits there and says, I'm going to give to you as much as you give back to me. And if your loved one isn't doing that, then it's time for you to stop working so hard, because guess what? That leaves you feeling incredibly resentful. I always felt so resentful, which is another nice word for angry. That's what that is. When I would just spend all day doing everything for him, and then he would come home and not recognize it, or maybe he would, but then not return the favor. So that sets you up for a really negative experience. It did for me, at least. And it wasn't until I was like, it's so funny. It wasn't until I saw, I took the leap and said, I'm going to be selfish and just think about me and the kids and what we need to do to get by. And the funny part about that is the word selfish, because that was the way that I felt when I started practicing caring for people who, A, were my responsibility, which were my younger kids that were dependent on me, and B, myself, and C, not taking responsibility or, caring for somebody who was hurting me and harming me. And it's funny that, it's not funny, that's the wrong word to say, but it's interesting that I would use the word selfish, because it felt so scary to me to take that leap of faith and not take care of him all the time and put his needs above my own, and to literally walk around with a garbage bag. Oh my gosh, I thought he's going to be so mad at me. He is going to hate this. And then what I realized as I got stronger and stronger was that is a adult's responsibility, not, when even children are taught to pick up their toys, to put their dishes in the sink when they're done, to clean their area, to take care of their items that they love. And so why am I treating him less than like being more immature than a child? I'm just enabling that. But it took me to get kind of unbrainwashed from that whole enabling behavior to go, yeah, I'm not being selfish. I'm just not playing this game anymore where he gets to run around and get drunk and sleep in and not take care of the kids or not like help out around the house. And I'm still waiting for my gold sticker that's never going to come. And that actually doesn't feel that good when I get it anyways. So I stopped playing the game, and that was incredibly healthy for me. Yeah. So I don't remember where I was going with that, but I do know, because I'm getting older, guys, I do know that we are going to be talking about more steps, okay? And so last week we ended on step 4, which was one of my favorites, which is about taking an honest look at our lives and taking accountability for them. And so today we're going to be talking about step 5, which is, again, there's some God language. If that ruffles your feathers and you don't like the word God, you can put in anything you want or nothing at all, up to you. But step 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Okay, this is mega. So remember, the whole reason why we're going over this is to help you understand if you love someone that is struggling with addiction, a way to tell if they are getting sober is, again, on being honest. How honest are they? Now, this step typically in a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous environments sometimes can look even as practical as making a list of everything that you've done wrong and then calling or reaching out to that person and saying, hey, this is what I did. So there was one person I know that went as far back as when they were 17, and they stole their mother's jewelry and got it to a pawn shop, and bought drugs with the money, right? And it was this priceless necklace that was like worth, quite a bit of money, and all they got, I think, was like $27 for it or something, but it was enough to buy the drugs that they wanted. And so part of the making amends, and that's another step that we'll get to, was saying, look, this is like, I did this and I'm so sorry because I never admitted it. And you've been thinking that necklace was gone this whole time, and it wasn't. I actually took it from you. And that takes true bravery. But the point behind that step is to say, okay, we're going to build back your integrity, right? Because we all know that loving someone that struggles with addiction typically comes with a lot of lies, a lot of manipulation, a lot of skipping out on responsibilities, like we talked about. And so there's not a lot of integrity with addiction, is there? Like, that's probably an understatement. There's probably no integrity. Maybe sometimes there is, I don't know. But the point is that this step, I think, is very important, or the intention behind this step is very important, to say, look, you're going to admit what you did wrong so you can clear your conscience, start over again, own up to what you've done in the past, apologize so that you can feel relieved from feeling forgiven. And not only feel relieved for feeling forgiven, but feel loved for being forgiven. Because that's, I think, what a lot of addiction manipulates the addicted, by allowing them to, or by making them believe that what they've done is so bad that they can never be forgiven and that they are never deserving of love. And you and I know that is such a lie, that we love them so much that like our love can almost be suffocating sometimes because we just care so much and we see the potential of who they are and we just want to help them. But addiction it's just nasty and it's evil and just gross, and it makes the people that are so special and wonderful believe that what they've done is terrible and will never be forgiven. And that's not true, because there's such a gift in being honest with someone when you've wronged them and having them say, thank you. Thank you for admitting that. I had a feeling, or I had no idea, but I love that you were just honest with me and I forgive you. Absolutely, I forgive you because I adore you and I believe in you and I'm going to support this whole new you that you're trying to build. That's called healing, and that is amazing. And addiction doesn't want the addicted to believe that they can be forgiven. But they can. And the reason why, and we always talk about addiction as the third person, right? There's you, there's the one you love that's struggling with addiction, and then there's the third party, which is like the mistress of your relationship, and that's addiction. And addiction is like a cloak. Like think of a magician with that like black cloak with the red lining, or like I always think of like the Count in Sesame Street. They have that cloak over them and it just covers them and it hides their wonderfulness. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk next to wonderfulness. Some people are in relationships with other people that are struggling with addiction that are not so good. All right? I don't want you to think that if you are being abused, that is a great person that's just struggling. I want you to understand that I am not calling all people that are struggling with addiction good. There are some bad people out there, and there are some people you need to run from, for sure. So we're not going to make this blanket statement that every person that struggles with addiction is great, because that's just not true. But I think a lot of them are. And so when we talk about admitting to ourselves, to another person, that we've done something wrong, it allows us to break that vicious lie that addiction tries to get them to believe, that they are unforgivable. And it allows them to feel loved in a very healing, special way. And so if you love someone struggling with addiction, and a great way to see if they are on the path to sobriety is how much have they confessed to you? How much have they admitted is what they've done? And I know some of it's going to be really hard to hear, but if they are not willing to admit everything, then we might not be on the whole path to sobriety. Okay, let's go on to step number, let's see, where are we? You guys, 5. Okay, that was 5. Now we're on 6. So step 6 is we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Yeah, okay, so this one, again, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters. Remember I said this is based on a Christian movement. So if you're upset about that, I apologize. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. But basically, I think this is about... hold on, now I just lost my place again. You guys, I'm sorry. I'm toggling back and forth between screens on my computer. This is about willingness. That's what this is about. This is about being willing to be changed, willing to allow something greater than ourselves, whether that's God or the universe or whatever, to allow, to be open to the idea that there is a new beginning and a new possibility, and that all of those things that perhaps we've gotten into negative patterns, negative behaviors, that those can be relearned, reprogrammed, that there is possibilities that who we are today is not who we are going to be 5, 10, 15 years. That if we have the desire and the will to grow into the person that we want to become, that can happen, right? That's what I think this is. Number 6 is so important. And I don't think we can just get to number 6 without first admitting what those traits are. So a lot of the times when we love someone struggling with addiction, they are very defensive, right? They will defend until they die. They will defend everything, all of their choices. They will defend all of their shortcomings, right? They'll defend their defects of character, and they will say, you're crazy. I'm not as bad as you think I am. So if you are in love with someone struggling with addiction and they are in the process of sobriety, and you have someone saying, you know what? I have lied. I have a problem with lying, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I am going to try my best to allow myself and be open to changing the knee-jerk reaction of lying every time I'm asked a hard question. That is a person that is on their path to sobriety. That is someone who you can have hope in. If they are a cheater, right? They have a history of looking, another controversial statement I'm going to make is I believe looking at pornography, if you want to look at it together, that's one thing, but separately, I don't know, you guys, but I'm not comfortable with it. I think it's cheating. But if you think that's cheating, if you feel uncomfortable with, and we can disagree wholeheartedly, you can disagree with anything I'm saying on this podcast, and I promise you, I raise my kids like that. Please, speak your mind. It's okay to disagree with me. We don't need to agree on everything in order to be friends. But if you are uncomfortable with pornography, if you consider that cheating, or if you consider that not honoring who you are, then somebody who is addicted to pornography, if they come to you and say, you know what, I want to stop my behavior of getting turned on by looking at other women and idolizing other women's bodies. And I need to stop doing that and be grateful for what I have, and stop fantasizing about that. That is somebody who's on the right path, right? As opposed to you coming to them and saying, you know what, I have a real problem with this. It doesn't make me feel like really loved or wanted by you. When we're sleeping together, I'm worried that you're thinking about somebody else, or maybe they've stopped sleeping with you because they found pornography so relieving. If you go to them and say, this isn't okay with me, would you consider the idea or the possibility of stopping this behavior? If they look at you and go, I'm not doing that, you're crazy, or you know what, that's in your head, it's really common, everybody does it, you just need to get okay with it. That's not someone that sounds to me like they are on the path to recovery. That sounds like defensiveness, right? A healthy person who is on the path to recovery would listen to your feelings, acknowledge them, and go, okay, let's talk about this. What specifically, can you explain your feelings? Can you help me understand where you're coming from? And then if they love you and they want to remain in a relationship with you, they would say something along the lines of, I understand this is important to you. Can we either watch it together if you're okay with that? And if you're not okay with that, I respect that and honor you and honor our relationship so much that of course I'm willing to not look at this kind of material on the internet. And, maybe we get a little bit more creative in the bedroom once trust is built back up again. Or maybe you're like, no, I'm shutting down for business. Shop is closed until you can quit that behavior, right? Like, there's lots of dialogue that you can have. And I'm not suggesting that what I'm saying is the only way. I'm just saying that a person that is working towards recovery is far more open to hearing how you're feeling and how their behavior makes you feel than just going in and denying or gaslighting or projecting or, like giving you the Heisman. You know what I mean? I hear a lot about this when couples go to therapists and therapists are not trained in addiction. Like if they go to a therapist that isn't trained in addiction, I'm not saying there's certainly lots of therapists that are trained in addiction, or if the couple doesn't acknowledge that addiction is going on, it's really hard then for there to be honest dialogue and real communication if the person in therapy is not willing to admit they have a problem with addiction. Then if they are being defensive, then how much progress can you really make, right? You're going to drive yourself nuts trying to convince them that there's an issue. So being willing to admit your defects of character is a huge victory. And I love that it's number 6. Okay, so that is it for today. I hope you found something useful. I realized last week I was telling you about how we're starting to create free worksheets for you that have kind of like a summary of what this is and to ask you questions that will prompt you for independent thinking. It's sort of like a writing exercise. And we're starting to do this for each episode of the podcast because I think it will be super helpful. But then I told you to go, if you subscribe to the newsletter, you get access to all of them. But then I didn't tell you where to go to subscribe to the newsletter, which is brilliant on my part. So if you go to loveoveraddiction.com, which is where we live, and also you can get a transcript for free of this entire podcast if you like to read, or you like to highlight, or you like to geek out like me and take notes. But also you can find all these worksheets that we're going to provide you, obviously for free, that will help you understand, or not understand, but help you. The whole point is to think for yourself, right? Obviously, I'm just here to be a guide to help you ask yourself questions that will reach your own truth. Because the reality is that we are a group of people from all over the world, and our circumstances are completely different, but we have one common bond, which is we love someone struggling with addiction. And the answers for each one of us might be very different. And so the goal is, let me just provide you some questions and some outlines and some thoughts and some research that will help you arrive at the most perfect place and position for you. And the thing is, guys, is that I know we talk a lot about the work, right? Like, you aren't powerless, and in order to feel better, you need to do your own work, right? Not giving away your power to your loved one. But it's also okay if you don't want to do work today. It's completely fine to take a break because life is hard and you might be freaking exhausted and that's okay too. I never ever want you to feel pressured by anybody, especially me, to keep going or to keep making things better if you just want to sit for a while in the fact that they're not okay and that you don't know what you're going to do. I want you to feel okay with that too, because I'm going to sit with you no matter where you end up. I'll sit with you in your pain, and I will sit with you while you're working. I will cheer you on every step of this process. The only thing that I want you to learn from this is to not judge yourself and to recognize how amazing and beautiful and wonderful you are and what you deserve. That was the single greatest thing that I realized while loving someone struggling with addiction was I just needed someone to remind me that it was going to be okay, even though I was broke and had no friends and had 3 young kids and, didn't know what to do, didn't have a job, hadn't worked in 7 years. How was I going to do anything, right? But I needed someone to really tell me it was going to be okay and that all I needed to do was take one step at a time. And if I needed to take a break and not take a step, that's okay too. I could sit down and try to make sense of all of this and take a rest. So this is me telling you, if you want to rest, I'm with you. I'll sit down right next to you, and that's okay. Pick back up whenever you want to, whenever you're ready. That's okay. You don't need to push yourself so hard all the time, if that's what you're doing. But if you've been sitting for a while and you're ready to get started, I would love nothing more than to cheer you on. Like, I will make a sign that will be very pretty with all sorts of different colored markers, and will have your name on it, and I will wave it in the air and scream so loud to remind you how terrific you are and that you can do this. Okay? So I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with my personal thoughts and beliefs. We are bonded together by the fact that we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.